right?
Yeah, last time though it was like 15 or 20, and I felt so bad. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna make that a part. Matter of fact, I've got this little cheat sheet I go by for these calls, and I wrote it down at the very bottom, but usually at the very top, it's now gonna be hit record. So
Yeah.
make sure that's done.
Definitely.
How's your day, buddy?
Good. It's been pretty busy. Just got done with a listing appointment for a house that we got listed.
Okay.
So yeah, good day.
So how many properties do you have listed?
Right now we just got one under contract on Friday, and that's the reason I actually wasn't able to get on the call, because we were working on trying to get that negotiated, and we actually got that under contract Friday. And so
Okay.
this other one now going on market. We went and looked at two more today, so moving along.
Cool. Hey, Kim, how are you? Where is that mute button?
Hey, what you doing? Are you going to silence me that quick?
No, I didn't. I think it does it when you first join.
Okay.
There's a lot of things about Zoom I'm still trying to figure out. Like for some reason, every time y'all log in, I have to hit admit for you to log in.
Okay.
And I'm still deciding.
You might want to not let us in.
Well, no, I mean, because it's not I mean, there is some links out there that are published, and I'm thinking, I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not on this one. I felt bad the other day. That's why I was like checking in. I wanted to talk to you real quick. I might just go dial-in mode.
Sure.
So you can't see me because I'm actually at work right now. And if our phone starts ringing, they don't. I'm lucky we get to be loose in the building. We get to roam about the building how we want. But on that last call in, I was so busy and I had people calling and walking in the house and I kept coming off the screen and on the screen. And I felt like I was being rude to the caller. So I didn't want to do. Yeah, I didn't want to do that.
That's fine.
I'm sure there's proper etiquette for Zoom.
Sure. We're all figuring it out, so that's fine.
Right.
Hey, James, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hey there.
Look at you. You still dress for work, huh?
Well, we have our big annual meeting in Washington, D.C., where over 14,000 transportation, engineering, planning, everything dealing with transportation, we meet. And so I'm in D.C. all week for that meeting. So we have meetings from 7 a.m. in the morning until I just left one about an hour ago.
Oh, wow. So now it's R&R on to do whatever you want to do, right?
The fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're spending it with us, a little bit of time with us. So, hey, I want to make sure on your, I was looking at the trackers today and I noticed you haven't made a whole lot of progress on yours. I want to make sure you have access to that like you want to.
Yeah, I have access to it. It's been more so at this point, all of the things are running in my head.
I understand. Yep.
Actually putting it on paper.
Yep.
And putting it on paper, it doesn't necessarily make it scary, but it makes it real.
Are you afraid of commitment, James?
No, I'm not afraid of commitment because I'm doing stuff. It's not that I'm not doing stuff, but it's like, am I putting the right thing down?
Yeah.
I want to make sure. So I've been kind of twirling a lot of that around.
Yeah. Well, so for me, and because I've been through this exercise several times now, the most probably when I need to double up on my anxiety medicine is that next version that comes out. And I sit down and I think, okay, well, here's what we got to do here's what I'm going to focus on in the next 12 months or 12 weeks. And I get so nervous. I'm thinking, man, do I really want to commit to this? So I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on with you too. So
I just need to sit down and go through and do it.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, Terry, how are you?
Hello.
Jason, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
So we're right here at 8:00. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. I have hit the record button, so we got 5 minutes of us just blabbing. So make sure I didn't forget to do that. And then looks like Annette's trying to join. Hey, Annette, how are you? Melody's joining. Hey, Annette. Hey, Melody. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So I didn't see if you posted some questions to the group. I didn't see those. So start off. Does anybody have any questions they want to post to the group real quick?
Jay, I have one that we ran into today. We have several offers out. We've been doing our tracker and working on those goals, and it's been extremely effective. I know we were just talking about it before everybody jumped on. It's been extremely effective, and my partners jumped in on it with me as well, and just really kind of targeting everything. But because of that, it's ramped up our offers, and when people aren't taking the offers, an immediate offer or acceptance, how many are you putting out there? Like, does anybody have any feedback on there? Like, how many offers could you have out on any given number of properties waiting for one that might hit? Or it's kind of like, when we go fishing out at the beach, having 10 lines and being able to catch the right one.
Yeah.
So,
Well, technically there's no limit, right? Or to my answer, there's no limit.
Right.
You got to be able to do what's in your comfort zone. And then what if, I don't know if this is a worst case scenario or best case scenario, but what if they all get accepted?
Yeah, that's kind of what we ran in today. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we're like, oh my God, what if everybody says yes to this, we're about to have to grab some cash,
Well, and if they do all get accepted, I'm going to go on a limb and say you probably didn't make a good enough offer.
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what we thought. No, I agree. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of strikeouts, but for some reason, these three just seem to be like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's, I don't know. I'm not a multiple offer at once kind of guy. I know that Tim has done that before, which he's not on here tonight. And I know when he first moved to Pensacola, he made 8 offers at once.
Okay.
And I think only one of them got accepted. And I don't know if he had some lingo in his offers that let everybody know, hey, we're making multiple offers. If one gets accepted, they're all canceled out or withdrawn. I don't know that. You might want to post that in the group and just to see if there's something there. But anybody else got any feedback on that? Patrick, we were just talking about you've got multiple listings. You ever had multiple offers?
Yeah, we've actually we had multiple offers come through when we were selling, and when we've been buying, we've put in multiple offers before. The closest we ever got was a couple counters at once, but never 2 accepted offers at once. So we've never actually come across that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Kim, you had 3 offers that were accepted, or they're getting really close?
Well, they just feel really close. Like everything's really cooking. We're getting a lot of feedback, and honestly, it's a couple of them kind of sat there, and we really lowballed the people. Like it was almost shameful,
And you made a good offer, right?
right. It's embarrassing, and they really sat on it for a while, and we didn't hear from them, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, listen, we've had a couple offers which we thought was not true. Like we feel like it's a BS line from them, and they're just trying to get us to come up, to a highest and best kind of scenario. But it just didn't feel right. And so now they're like, oh, we're going to respond to you first thing in the morning. Is everybody where they want to be? And I'm like, yep, we're good. We're not budging. So, and then we just keep having, kind of like, we've talked to in some of the previous lessons, everything kind of comes together all at once. And, when you're sending it out into the universe, it just starts clicking. Yeah. And it's kind of what it feels like. It just is like left and right, almost to the point where we're like, okay, we need to step back, and take a little bit of a break. But it feels good. But again, it's how do you manage it is what we've run into. So.
Yeah, my only feedback there is number one, I think that's a signal of growth, right?
Right.
But then what's your risk tolerance?
Yeah. And we got a little bit of that tonight, and then we also just closed. I think we closed Thursday or Friday on a property and started a rehab Monday.
Nice.
So all of that's kicking up as well. So it's just all kind of on top of each other. And so
congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for your guidance. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Annette, you have your hand raised?
Hello?
Hey. How are you?
Good. I think if you get multiple offers accepted, what you need to do is like find a problem with the one that you don't like, inspection time. That's what you do. If you don't have the money, if you have the money to do maybe two, then the third one, then you just find a problem on the inspection and then you just walk away. Depending on your offers, if your offers are contingent on inspection or financing or something.
Oops, I'm sorry. On the one offer where we kind of like it seemed like they were playing with us. They literally, we gave them, you get that 24-hour period, they respond, and they just didn't respond. They responded basically, we offered on Friday and they offered back on the next Monday. I'm like, what? Well, we're out of contract, really. We don't have to accept anything.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean,
so if that's the one that you don't want, then you say, I'm sorry, but our offer expired. That's why you put a limit on your offer.
Right.
And they were probably waiting for the weekend to go on and see if they get any other offers on the weekend. That's what they always do. I don't know why, but every time I offer, it ends up being on Friday, and they always wait until Monday to see if on the weekend they get something else.
Oh, they're just strangely unavailable, because that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, they're available, and then all of a sudden just, cricket. So yeah, okay, that makes sense then. I'm glad to hear you felt that too.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see here. Yeah, Annette, you bring up a great point. Best case scenario, or as we just talked about, worst case scenario, if you get all offers accepted, then you go back and reevaluate and you choose the one or ones that hit your criteria the best, right? And that I think is a great point. Great point. Anybody else have any other questions? Or Terry, you got your hand raised?
Well, as the realtor in the group, I have no problem with the multi-offer situation. And Jay, your idea about putting maybe some language in there isn't a bad idea, but I guess what I would say is people may not take you as seriously if it's in there. However, it isn't a bad idea. Annette, yes, you can always use due diligence or inspections as a way to bow out, but I would really discourage any of my buyers from stringing along a seller that long. Probably you have not done any earnest money. Usually when I write contracts, I do an acceptance date a submission date of the earnest money that's a few days after the contract, the MEC, mutual execution of the contract. And so you would just not give your earnest money, and you would just say, sorry, we had other stuff come up and we're not going to do it, but let them know right away. It's just a courtesy.
Okay. Yeah, we did have, like I said, we had offered on Friday, expecting to hear something by at least midday Saturday, and didn't hear anything. We're expecting that, and then that didn't happen. We're like, golly, they're just not even going to respond. I wonder if they got a better offer, because that market's just real quick right there in that zip code. And we thought, well, they must have gotten another offer and taken it. And then all of a sudden we hear back from them on Monday, like, oh, there you are. And we did have the earnest money, upon signing contract, and we were going to give them money because, and like you said, we do want to be taken very seriously.
Right.
Like when we walk in and we start to say, when we actually make an offer, we do want to be taken seriously with that, because there's so many people out here. So, so thank you.
Sure.
And Terry, so Kim, I'm glad you said the point where you think that they were just messing with you, because I also go through that emotional roller coaster when we make offers too. So Terry, from your perspective, from a realtor's perspective, how much of that really goes on? Or are we all just paranoid and anxious about submitting the offer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And actually, when a property is new to market, it is not at all unusual for realtors to sit on offers, bring in multiple offers over like a weekend, the way Annette said, or something. And, so that they can see what the best offer is. I would put language in my listing and my showing stuff that says, we're going to be collecting offers until X date. And so, don't expect to hear back from us until then, and write your contracts accordingly. If it's realtors writing the contracts, if Kim's writing her own stuff, then you may not know that. But yeah, it actually is legit in a lot of markets. If it's a fairly hot market, people will put that out there and they'll wait. And they want 2 or 3 days. And especially if you're dealing with distressed properties, a lot of times you're dealing with elderly people, or you're dealing with people who just don't have their act together. And so you need to give them a little bit of time, because they got to call their son, or they got to, think about things, or so demanding an answer by noon tomorrow may not be realistic.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. We did list it with a broker realtor.
Okay.
And she was very helpful. I mean, she's very investor friendly.
Good.
And so she was giving us guidance on that. And it appears to be another investor, maybe a retiring investor but he does have a realtor managing that. And it was funny that we even found it on the MLS. It was almost a fluke that we found it on the MLS. And that's why we reached out to our friend that is a broker. So.
Okay.
Patrick, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo also kind of what Terry said. For our realtor, whenever we list anything, they automatically write in that there's going to be a delay of offers for at least the first weekend that it's on the market, in case it is a hot property. And then also it's written in that there won't be any offers accepted at all over weekends. So if there's something written on Friday, it's already, it's written in if they want a 24-hour turnaround. That 24-hour turnaround won't be till close of business Monday. Just so it gives the people who are, us as the seller, more opportunity, because buyers like to make that decision over the weekend. So it gives us more opportunity to collect a couple more bids.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of that either. So that's awesome. That's a good point. Kim, thank you for sharing that. That was, I'm excited for you guys. I'm looking forward to hearing
thank you.
what happens with all of them. So
yeah, I'm going to be in the hot seat soon, so I'll get to share all that. I'm excited. So
absolutely. Okay, cool. Anybody else have a success story they want to share? Patrick, you got, you had some stuff going on last Friday. You want to explain that a little bit more?
Definitely. So, Thursday night, we ended up getting an offer on the flip that we put on the market a couple weeks ago. We thought that we had come to terms. Our realtor reached out to the other realtor on our counter, and they said verbally, yeah, it's good to go. So we sent everything over, and then it just was dead silence. So they called back Friday morning to figure out what was going on, and it was the first time home buyer, got cold feet, decided that they came up with a bunch of reasons why they didn't want to buy it. So it was what it was. And a couple minutes before we were supposed to hop on our call, we got another offer that they were pretty serious and they wanted an answer back. So we were able to work it out. We got under contract on Friday. Friday was pretty busy for me. We got it under contract, and we also got our listing appointment for another house. We just got listed today. It'll actually be live the beginning of next week. Nice. And also got my job offer that I accepted for me when I separate out of the Navy on Friday as well. So
wow, busy
weekend.
Productive Friday. So
for sure.
That's awesome, buddy. So on the flip, can you tell us some of the numbers of that, or would you rather wait until after it closes? Or
we can go for it. Okay. So we bought it for $117,500 from a wholesaler who actually bought it off of the MLS, but they bought it for like $60,000 below what was on the MLS. I don't know how they ended up pulling that deal off, but they ended up making about a $10,000 fee. I think they bought it for about $105,000. We put in roughly $80,000 into it, and we've got it under contract right now for right at $270,000 with a little bit of carrying costs, a little bit of closing costs back to the buyer.
Wow. Okay. That's great, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
So what do you plan to do once this closes? What do you plan to do with that money, or does that feed over into your tracker? Do we need to get?
So it does feed into the tracker a little bit. So basically what I wanted to, for this quarter, we wanted to be under contract on a, preferably a multifamily, a 3 or 4-plex. And then also we want to be working on our next flip. We actually went and looked at one today. We're going to put in an offer from a wholesaler that has a single family here that got a little bit of flood damage back in 2014. And so we're going to put an offer in on that and see where that goes.
Awesome, man. You guys are taking action. I love it. I love it. You know, one thing I'm going to struggle with this call, and I was going to do this big, hey, welcome everybody for the first Tuesday night version of the W2 Capitalist, but I forgot. Just, I'll be okay with that because I didn't forget to hit the record button, which is good. So, but I wanted to say this. I'm concerned about having this call because it's going to back up against my bedtime. But I feel like when we hang up, I'm going to be so jazzed. It's going to be hard for me to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, well worth it to hear y'all's awesome progress that you're making. So very cool. Very cool. So I had a chance this afternoon to look at your tracker. Man, you're killing it. The only feedback I have for you are your checkpoints.
Okay.
Right? And as I was looking, and I think this is a statement for almost across the board, at least halfway across the board. A lot of trackers are missing these, and it's very important to have them, right? So you're hitting those daily tasks, sure, that's great, but make sure you have those checkpoints because it's, you know, and I'll give you an easy example. So one of my visions, and this is not real estate related, so I'm a homebody, right? I'm an introvert. So one of the things I'm trying to make sure is our family gets out and starts doing things. So my daily task is to spend 20 minutes a day to research and study, hey, what's going on for the weekend? What's coming up next that we can go and do? And then my 30-day checkpoint is to make sure we do 3 new events, something we've never done before, right? So by that, I mean, that's my daily drills. And I'm struggling with that right now because I get caught up in everything else. But if I didn't have that daily checkpoint of saying, okay, we're going to go do these 3 new events that we've never done. And it can be something simple, right? As far as, hey, we're going to go hike a trail we've never hiked or, you know, go drive somewhere we've never driven before. But it is a checkpoint to say, okay, I'm starting to hit some rhythm, right? I'm not just going through the motions, but I'm actually progressing toward that goal. So I don't expect you to come up with those during this call, but something for you to think about and take away to make sure you're hitting these, you know, because you're nailing it, right? I mean, you're 100% across the board, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is one thing, like realizing that I'm 100% across the board. I feel like at my 30-day checkpoint, I may need to relook at my visions and see if there's places I can push myself a little bit harder. Yep. Here, I thought, especially for Vision 1, we weren't entirely confident of how quickly we would get the flip sold, so I wasn't sure how much further I could push myself past that one. Yep. But with it seems like the wheels are turning a little bit faster than I had, you know, been cautiously optimistic about. And so I feel like now we can, I can push myself further in Vision 1 for sure. Vision 2 is something that it'll be very dependent upon around here. And I don't plan on investing outside of the area for a while. Finding any decent multifamilies is very difficult, you know. Yep. Vision 3 is a long-term one, which as I go further and further, I can make a little more solid as I go along.
Yeah. And I agree with you. The multifamily market around here is very, it's very lean.
Yes.
To put it that way. Is there a reason why, cause I struggle with this too. You know, I mean, I'm of the mindset that I have to at least have the option to drive by a property if I own it, right? I don't know why that is. And you know, and the flip side of that, one of our best cash flow, and it's probably why I haven't gone by it in a while, our best cash flowing duplex is 5 minutes from my house. I've never stepped foot in it. B, I can't tell you the last time I've driven by it. It's probably a year and a half ago.
Wow.
But when somebody presents an opportunity that's not drivable distance for me, I immediately just kind of shut it down. And I don't know why that is. Why is that for you? Just curious.
For me, honestly, I think it's one of those like death by conventional wisdom type deals, which I've read the David Green's book about real estate investing, and I'm trying to break down my reservations about it because I like you said, I don't really feel like I have a good reason other than people say, if you can't go look at it, what if something happens? But something can happen anywhere.
Right.
I just feel like it's a little bit more of I feel like it could be more of a damage control reason. I just don't have a reason to believe that, I guess.
Who here, and you're going to have to raise your hand electronically, who invest outside of state?
I do.
James
Yeah.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Melody does. So James, give us some guidance on. Tiffany does too. So I'll go to all three of you. So James, we'll start with you. Tell me how you came to that realization of saying, okay, I want to do it. And at what point in your career, your investing career, did you say, okay, I want to do this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So to make sure I wasn't on didn't have my mic on mute. For me, it was kind of looking around, because I live in Richmond, Virginia. We had invested in a.
That's not an expensive market at all, is it?
It is for multifamily.
Yeah.
Not for, you can find some single family, some fix and flips, and there's a lot of that going on. But for the multifamily market is pretty tight. You're looking at cap rates of like 5%, 4% in some places, and people are paying things for apartment complexes in some hot areas that we just couldn't afford. We do have a rehab project going on in one of those areas in Richmond, but that's been slow going, and we were looking for other areas to invest. So for me, I went to undergraduate at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we have some friends who knew the area, and so we began to build up our network of people that were down there as we started looking into other places to invest. And I think one of the hesitations for investing out of state is when you don't really have a network of people that you trust and can talk to, that kind of know the market. I think you really have to take time to build your team, particularly, with any kind of investment, but with multifamily, you got to make sure you have the right property manager. You have to, have an asset manager who has the ability to go check in. You may not have to live there, but someone who is going to be visit the property more frequently, particularly if you're doing any kind of renovations or any kind of turns. And I guess it really depends on the state at which you buy the property. So when we bought our first 20 unit property in Greensboro, it was maybe 50% occupied. There were maybe 10 of the 20 units that were occupied. Our asset manager had recently moved to Greensboro, so he's able to kind of see the property a little bit more. I've seen the property twice, but he's there a little bit more frequently than I am, and we've been turning it around, cleaning the property up, and now this month we have 17 of the 20 rented. And we've grossed this month. We hit the $10,000 in rent collected for this month. Nice. So we're continuing. Hey, we got 3 more units to fill. We're continuing to make a push there, and we've decided strategically from the returns that we can get, that the North Carolina area, the Greensboro, North Carolina area is where we're going to focus on right now. I still look at properties in the Richmond area and analyze deals in the Richmond area to see if there's something that may, pique our interest. But right now, we're focusing in North Carolina. And so we don't necessarily do syndications, but we're doing within the multifamilies, we do, partnership type agreements. So each partner comes with a certain amount of money. We withhold some of it back for the management team. The partners come with money and they get a certain percentage of equity in the project. We make sure that we hold meetings, updating all of the partners on where we stand, because we were not comfortable at that time going the totally passive route.
Yeah. And so how far is Greensboro from Richmond?
Oh, about 3 hours.
Okay. Still drivable, but it'd be a long day, right?
Yeah, it was a long day. I went down there when we inspected all 20 units in the middle of the summer when the air conditioning in my car wasn't working. So it was a very long day.
Oh man. Awesome. That's good stuff. Kim, you got your hand raised too. You've invested out of state as well?
Yeah, we have probably about an hour and a half away from us up in St. Simon's Island. We have 2 vacation rentals. But interestingly enough, we didn't have any hesitation in getting those. They're under property management with a friend that I went to high school with, who's a successful real estate broker and agent, and just real well placed up there. And we've done very well up there. But we have a bunch of kids down in college in Orlando, and we're really wanting to buy. They're ready to kind of place roots, and we're nervous to go down there because, kind of as James was saying, we don't have roots down there and a good foundation for some partners and some contractors, or if something goes wrong, if they can help us out, and even a property manager of some sort.
What would be your first step? And Patrick, we'll get back to you in a minute, but Matt, I think this is going to help us out both.
Definitely.
What is your next step, or what would be your first step if this is something you're going to focus on immediately? What would be your first step in establishing those roots?
So we've been screening properties and looking at specific areas, and I was actually going to get on Bigger Pockets and kind of get around down there and check and see if there's any Orlando people, just kind of network through and even talk to you guys and see just within the W2 Capitalist and the different forums, just kind of send it out like, hey, do we have any connections over in Orlando that can help me out and help, watch my back over here, over there. So
social networking aspect first, and then probably next step would be interviewing some potential property managers and then going from there.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Melody, you had your hand up as well. You invest out of state?
I do. I live in Long Island, New York, and it's just way too expensive here. And even driving out 2 hours, I wanted to find a state that's landlord friendly. So I chose Georgia, and got 2 duplexes and a single family, and I completely rely on the property management company that I found through Bigger Pockets, highly recommended. So far it's going okay.
Yeah.
And when they have repairs, I tell them to take a picture before and after, just, for to feel better.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a good idea. I don't do that with all property managers now. It might be something I should do.
And when I first closed on them, they're, hitting me with all these expenses, these repairs. And I'm like, really? The seller didn't fix anything. And I felt uneasy, and I asked them to take pictures before and after when they fixed it, and then I'll pay the bill.
Yeah.
So they've been doing that. So it's going okay.
So what part of Georgia did you say?
The single families in Villarica, and
okay.
The duplexes are in Conyers.
Okay. Yeah. Familiar with both of those just because I've driven through them. That's about it. So how did you find those properties? And then how did you find the property managers? Because I'm assuming it's 2 different property managers just because of where those.
No, it's actually one property manager.
One property. Okay.
I went through a company called Roofstock, and I actually did everything online.
Wow.
So I didn't go
So finding the properties, finding the property managers and everything?
inspection, everything. They connect you through a lender. Would I go through them again? I bought 4 properties through them. And
Okay.
now I want to connect with a broker and, go the traditional route.
Okay.
To find a better deal,
Is that the main reason, is so you could find a better deal, or is there another
To find
reason?
a better deal, and I want to get into commercial.
Okay.
I want to get into 5 or more units.
Yeah.
They don't offer that.
Okay. But for Daniel and I, and this is one of the questions I had for you, because in your vision 2, you said envision 42 small and medium multifamily units. What are numbers are you looking at there, as far as, because you get above 10, 20 units. If we're sticking around here, that's almost impossible to find that's going to cash flow at all. What are you thinking about as far as define small and medium multifamily?
So ideally, something between like the 8 to 16 unit would kind of be something that I've been looking into. Obviously, it would have to get into, larger partnerships. Anything bigger than that, with bringing more people in.
Yep.
So just kind of, and like you said, around here, anything larger than, 6 or 7 units is pretty.
Well, even some of the quads and duplexes that I'm seeing, like my realtor sent me one today. I promised the same property was on the market 2 years ago for I want to say it was like 60,000, and today hit the market at 110.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Did you see it too? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't, anyway, we
Yeah.
can talk about that another time. I hope they get it.
Yeah.
It
Right.
won't be for me, but I hope they get it. Tiffany, you also had your hand raised, but it looks like you lowered it. You good there?
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, we invest out of state. We kind of got forced into it when we left the military and rented out our primary home. So I guess that kind of gave us the kind of the confidence that, having a property out of state wasn't, as difficult. We had property management in place for that property, and we had it for 7 years before we acquired the new properties in 2018. They're multifamilies. We have 1 single family, a couple of multifamily, and a commercial 7-plex. And we are self-managing out of state. Of the property, of all the units, I think it's a total of like 19. There were like 2 that were vacant. So that helped, not having a lot of them vacant. So
Right.
It would help kind of make that process easier. And our realtor was, she's amazing. She connected us with the handyman. She connected us with with everybody we needed to know. She would go to all the inspections, even when the insurance company, after we closed and the insurance company wanted to go out and inspect the buildings and things like that. So we have really kind of developed a team just by default, starting with the realtor. So your realtor can be a great resource, a great place to start to help build that team for you.
I see Terry shaking her head. Yeah. Terry, you got a Rolodex of tradesmen and everybody that you need. So if anybody's looking to are you in Grand Junction? Is that right? So if anybody's looking to invest in Grand Junction, Terry's got the hookup, right? That's a great point, Tiffany. That's a really good point. I don't see anybody else, so we'll continue on beating up Patrick here a little bit. So let's see. There was one thing I noticed. I wanted to make sure I understood. I think it goes into your vision 3 about the Maple House Foundation. Now, that is a foundation that y'all want to create. You've created.
That's what we want. That's what we want to create.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me a little bit about that, because I get the need for it. I completely understand. But tell me more about your overall vision for that, and I think that may add some clarity for the questions that are stumbling around in my head right now.
Definitely. So my wife and I both came from very low income families and never really had any sort of financial literacy training in our life, or real like leadership type training in our life. So we want to try to create a foundation, whether that's through partnerships with other like after school programs or something like that, to find kids who are, in that high school range, that are motivated for something else, but may not have anything, anybody at home or anybody at school that can really help them out. So we're currently looking right now to find that need. We kind of recognize that there is one around here, and just trying to find the best way to attack it. There's a lot of studies that go around stating that, just teaching a financial literacy program in class at school doesn't really do anything, because there's no real way to enact that training. Kind of like a kid will learn algebra and forget it as soon as they move on. So trying to create something that's a little bit more actionable, and still trying to concoct that and figure out what exactly that looks like.
What are you talking about? We all remember the Pythagorean Theorem, right? So, no, that's awesome. I completely get it. I think, with your and your wife's background of having come from that, I think that gives you some extra, I don't say leverage. You know who your audience is, or at least who they should be.
100%.
So that's awesome. The only feedback I was going to give you is that just some ideas around the checkpoints, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can, your 12-week goal is to identify 2 similar organizations and interview them on pain points when starting out. And I know this is a goal for 2024, so you're not really, you're not going gangbusters after
mm-hmm.
it. So I get that. The only thing I was going to say is maybe for your checkpoints here is by the end of 30 days, you've identified those 2.
Okay.
By the end of 60 days, you've interviewed that one, or at least started those conversations, because I don't imagine it's going to be one conversation that you have with them, right? So at least you've had that first conversation with them, and then by the 90 days, it's going to be another conversation. And then after that,
okay. I like that a lot.
You've got a pretty good, what are we in, 2019? So you've got 5 years, right?
Yep.
Anybody else still writing 2018 on checks?
Every day.
Yeah. It's crazy. So one of the other thing too, I wanted to focus on the, where was it? Just on your vision number 1, because it's just so much more immediate. Mm-hmm. I do think you can be doing more here.
Okay.
On your daily drills. Now, what that specifically is, I don't know. But I just think there's more that you could be doing.
Okay.
Right. And it's not to say that, because, I have the similar Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of threshold where I have, not threshold, but task list for those days. And some days it's like 4 and 5 things that I have to get done. And like today, I'm not able to put a 1 in my sheet because I got all but one of them done. And I can guarantee I'm not going to get done before I go to bed. So,
right.
There was a post I made sometime recently. It was about excellence does not equal perfection. Right now, I'm not saying you're not being excellent, but you're being perfect, right? Can they go hand in hand? Absolutely. But I think you could push yourself to do a little more, although you're killing it. It's hard for me to sit here and say, hey, you got to do more. But if you're doing this much now and you're hitting 100s, this is where I'm trying to push you, right?
100%. No, 100%. Like that. Okay. That's why I joined this group right here.
Yeah. So I think there's more you can do. I just don't know what that is. I don't like seeing 100% all the time. Sometimes good, right?
Right.
But not all the time.
Okay.
Does anybody have any suggestions for Patrick on what he can do more of given his visions and goals? You'll have to electronically raise your hand because I can't see everybody. No? Oh, Kim?
Yeah. Hey, Patrick. I and Jay, kind of this to you guys too is, I don't know about Patrick, but the first time I wrote my goals down and then we started working on them really hard, I just didn't realize how much I could actually do if they were written down. So it's almost kind of like this whole process is the first time I've ever done it. And then I'm working on it as a team, and it just really come together. So I don't know if Patrick feels the same way, but you know, that's kind of where I fall in it. Like I kind of just want to restart my whole thing over again and make it harder, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Patrick, do you feel that way?
Definitely. And another thing too is I've recently, my working hours have shifted from starting at 6 a.m. to starting at 8:30. And so I have an extra 2.5 hours in the morning that has made me so much more productive just on a day-to-day. Because normally by the time I get off work, you know, I'm just mentally exhausted. But having that extra time in the morning is just, I feel like I'm at least twice as productive as I am normally.
So how long are you going to be in that position? Do you know?
I'll actually, from here on out, because I've switched into a different position, and then once I separate from the Navy in 2 months, I'll be working remotely, and I'll set my own hours. So
awesome. So what I was talking about, you need to do more. Now that you just told me you had an extra 2.5 hours you didn't have before, it's going to be more.
All right.
Understand?
Definitely.
So. Yeah, go
Jay,
ahead.
can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Could Patrick explain just a little bit or clarify just a little bit more on his second goal, the 12-week goal, where he's talking about his criteria? Could you just elaborate on what your specific criteria is that you're looking for in your properties? Just for a newbie like me looking at, you know, very interested in multifamily, but not knowing, you know, what would be appropriate search criteria.
Definitely. So the criteria I was just referencing what was up in the top portion, basically that I wanted it to be something probably a small multifamily, and I wanted at least $150 a door cash flow. And then minimum, I didn't put minimum 10% cash on cash, but that would be that's another item that I have to make sure that we would fall into.
And is there a dollar number for a maximum purchase price that you stay under for financing requirements, or is there a spot that you fit in that you know, okay, this is the sweet spot?
Really, I mean, we've only had one rental prior, and it was a single family. We've actually don't have any multifamilies right now. And as far as that goes, it really is, if it hit our numbers and we had the funding to do it, and it got us closer to that 42 number, then we'd be willing to pull the trigger. But it just would have to hit the numbers properly and make sure that we weren't putting ourselves in a financial situation where we were getting too thin to where we couldn't also be able to move forward with our vision one at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there a, Kim, I feel like you had, did that answer your question? I guess I should say.
Yeah, I really think it did. I think sometimes some of the numbers seem ambiguous. You know, like I want a formula I can follow in the sense of a math formula. Yeah. But saying, I think I'm realizing, and that kind of pigeonholes into the conversation we had earlier about what is a sweet spot? When are you when do you have too many offers out? You know, and he's talking about getting thin on you know, his margins or his liquidity. And I can understand that. And that makes more sense than everything I've been looking as a mathematical formula to follow. Instead, it is, where does our comfort zone and what is our risk tolerance?
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you get into multifamily, it kind of opens up a lot of different aspects, right? So, for example, I've found out that getting a loan for a property that's over $1 million is a lot easier than a property that's under $1 million.
That is absolutely correct.
James, can you expand on that a little bit?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, it is easier getting a loan for a property over $1 million, particularly if you have the right partners, or your business or whatever it is. When they look at you, it was much easier to get that because of where the property's located. They do some initial tough screening, but we were able to use a bank here, in Virginia, Virginia Community Capital, and they have both a kind of for-profit arm and a nonprofit arm, a small local community bank, and they were able to help buy down our interest rate because as one of the primary investors in or partners in the deal, I'm a Virginia resident, and that's what we use, and I helped to guarantee that particular loan, so we were able to buy down the interest rate on that deal. It was much easier to go through that than it was even refinancing my single family home.
So on that, either James or Jay, is that mostly because the higher in price it gets, the more centered the focus is on the actual property and not the people necessarily, because they build in more controls into the financing as far as like holdback requirements and stuff like that, or why is it that it's so much easier?
I
I've got
think
some
that
thoughts, but James,
no, I was gonna say I think that's part of it because they're looking at that particular multifamily property as a business. Does it cash flow? Will you be able, to cover the debt service? And they have certain different debt service ratios that they're looking for. So that's the first thing that they're going to look for. Okay, if something goes, wrong, is this property performing as a business, and do we want to invest in that business? Then the second criteria to me is, okay, let's look at the individuals who are guaranteeing this loan if it's a recourse type loan. So we have two. In fact, I have a signature that I have to put on one of the things guaranteeing part of this $1.1 million loan for the 26 unit complex we're about to close on. And I think the next time we're going to be going for a non-recourse loan, but for right now, this is kind of where we are. But it was much easier though.
yeah. So I agree with that. And then also I had a banker tell me that it costs them the same amount of money to lend on for all their fees and everything associated for them to close on like a $500,000 loan as much as it did. I think he even said up to $3 million. So in the grand scheme of things, so the bank kind of draws this, not necessarily an imaginary line, but it could be just a straight bold line, says we won't loan you anything less than this. And so they realize, hey, if it's going to cost us this amount of money, we're going to sit back and wait for those opportunities that are going to be $1 million plus, because we're going to make so much more out of them. Melody and Kim, you both have your hand raised, and I wasn't sure who went first. So,
No, I'm good. Mine's not up.
okay.
My question is to James. So you were able to get a loan in the state of Virginia for your property that's located in North Carolina?
Yes, that is correct.
So I thought that you needed to get a loan for those community banks within the state. I wasn't aware that you can. It's
written in their charter that that they're looking to help promote multifamily properties, workforce housing, and it has to have some connection to Virginia. But it doesn't specifically say that they have to reside, that the apartment complex has to reside in Virginia. So we've used them for the first multifamily that we purchased and closed on in July, and we're using them again for this next one that we're planning on closing on in a couple of weeks.
So it depends on the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And James, how important do you feel your personal relationship with the bank has affected their decision on to do more business with you?
Listen, it's about relationships and not driven just by transactions, and being able to put together a really nice professional package for the bank to look at, because to look at and say, this is what you're doing, this is what you want to do, this is your plan for the property, and this is how you see your numbers working out, and they verify that, it gives them a lot of confidence, almost to the point that when they come across projects that they think might be a good fit for our niche, they send them to us. They'll get in contact with us and say, hey, you might want to think about getting some partners together and go after this one. What about this one? It hasn't worked out. The numbers hadn't worked out on some of the ones that they've sent so far, but it is about building that relationship.
So you're getting leads, whether they're listed or not, from your banking contacts, maybe not from your broker. Which is awesome. Very, very cool. Anybody got anything else for Patrick? If not, we'll wrap this up, man. But James, if nobody does, I'm going to pick on you for one more second, because I heard both Kim and Patrick say, hey, I didn't realize how, and I'm summarizing here, I didn't realize I could accomplish so much just by writing this down and going after it on dailies. So I'm just saying.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I was going to bring your tracker up, but anyway,
it's a blank sheet. You can bring it up. It's nothing there.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm giving you a hard time. Thank you for letting me do that.
Go big, James. Go big.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? For my vision too, it would be basically in 5 years, I want to have an ownership stake in 500 units, being able to positively affect 500 lives. That's really what it's about for me.
Yeah. Let's do it. That's awesome. I don't know. There's a lot more detail we can dive into, and we will in a few weeks for sure.
Yeah.
I want to point out on the trackers. So I went ahead and labeled the weeks, just because this year is a little off the way we started. So by the time that we get down to, because I think of a quarter as going a monthly basis, right? So by the time we get to the end of January, end of March, we're going to have an extra week there. So we'll plan with that accordingly. So when we start April, it'll be, week 1 again. So it's not going to be a week we're going to take off, but we're definitely going to have some extra space there. So let's see. But Patrick, I think you're doing a great job. I think you've discovered that you can push yourself a little more.
Definitely.
And then come up with those checkpoints just to keep yourself in tune in what you're doing, month at the end of every month. So good stuff, man.
Thanks.
The next part, I wanted to talk about the book a little bit, because I think a lot of y'all are getting a lot of good stuff out of it. And so the way that I envision this is every month we would do a new book, but there's so much good material in this. I'm toying around with the idea of making Miracle Morning Millionaires at least a month and a half or maybe 2 months, just to make sure we're really diving into it. Because, Melody, I've been encouraged by you, so thank you for doing that, which has affected my son. And seeing, I don't know if y'all saw that, but I got up early one morning and he caught me outside doing some stuff, trying to get the honeydew list and done. And he looks at me and says, Dad, it's too early to be doing this. And it was all because of Melody's post, because I was looking to sleep in that Saturday morning. But anyway, so thank you for doing that. And I think y'all, just by the engagement that I'm seeing, I want to stick to this topic for a while and make sure we're getting everything we can out of this before we move on to the next topic. So with that being said, anybody have any questions or feedback that they've had experienced, or anything they want to bring up about the Miracle Morning Millionaires on any of the challenges or anything related to that topic? Annette, you still getting up at 5:30? Are you starting to get up at 5:30? What was that?
I did on Monday or Wednesday? I don't know what day is today.
Today's
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
right? Okay, so
Yeah.
Monday I got up at 5, went to the gym, awesome. But then last night I stayed up really late, and then today I couldn't wake up. But tomorrow,
Well,
it's another day.
If I recall correctly, you said that you normally get up like at 6:30.
Yeah, 6:45.
Yeah. So, this is the point I want to make. That's a huge jump to change, and
No, but I on and off I I've been going to the gym for 6 months already
Yeah.
at 5 a.m. because that's the only time that I can do it.
I gotcha.
On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then sometimes I can go Sundays in the morning.
I gotcha.
But so I've been doing it, and then like I don't do it for 2 weeks, and then I do it again for like a month, and then so I kind of I've been doing the 5 a.m.
Okay.
But now I want to transition the other days to go, you know, and start 6 a.m. and then, you know, maybe 5:30.
I gotcha.
But it's hard because my son like the other day I did wake up early, but then he woke up and then I just couldn't do much.
Well, so I posted on one challenge, the 7-minute workout. Look it up. It's a great little app they have. And sometimes some mornings, that's all I do, you know, because I'm not trying to get in the gym and bulk up. I'm not really trying to lose weight. Although if my wife hears that, she'll probably rush in here and say, yes, he needs to, because I found a lot of extra calories over the holidays. But, you know, I am looking, the Miracle Morning Millionaire concept is not about bulking up. It's not about slimming down. It's about just getting active, right? So your mind starts engaging. So I find that it doesn't have to be a workout that is extremely challenging. It's just getting motion and waking your body up, right? So then you can start tackling what you need to tackle for that day. So while you may not get up at 5 tomorrow morning, get up at 5:30 or 6 and do 5-10 minutes of something, right?
Right. Yeah, no, my plan is to do the 7-minute workout the days that I can go to the gym.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm paying for the gym, so I might as well use it, right?
You might as well use it, right?
I will cancel soon if I don't go. But I love it. When I go, like I feel so good all day, full of energy. So I do like going, but you know, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm working on it, and also I've started like 100 things at the same time. Like, you know, we're reading together the Miracle Morning, which I was reading before, and you know, it wasn't working out, so I kind of stopped. But now I'm like more motivated to do it.
Good.
And then I'm also I was reading another book that I just finished, and now I started another book that is part of my goals. So it's like I'm trying to do all these things at the same time, but I'm getting organized here.
Good. Melody, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Miracle Morning, it's really making an impact in my life because, you know, at the end of the day after work, like Patrick said, you're mentally trained. So having to wake up an hour and a half earlier now for me, I get so much done. I read for about 20, 30 minutes. I exercise. I journalize. I never did that before. You know, and it's making a big difference for me, and I feel it. You know, I feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it. And what helps me wake up is putting my alarm clock across my bedroom on my dresser, and it's blaring music, so I don't want it to wake up my daughter. So I jump out of bed and I'm up. You know, so that helps. And
that's awesome.
I love it.
I do that too, and my husband loves it when in the middle of the night, I wake up and go to my son's room because he's crying, and then I fall asleep there, and then he has to wake up and turn off my alarm. He loves it. Like, I had to turn off your Miracle Morning alarm. Thank you. I didn't even hear it.
That's awesome. That's great stuff.
But yeah, I never thought that it would make a big impact, and it did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Always heard about it. You know, people waking up in the morning and doing their routine, and it helps them. Never thought it would work, but you know, when I started doing it, and tracking it really helped me start getting up, and I didn't want to, you know, not put that one there, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's self accountability, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Melody, are you doing just the routine, or are you also getting work done in the morning?
Work as far as like
looking for properties or stuff like that?
I save that for a nighttime when my daughter goes down. I have an hour to myself, and I start doing that.
Yeah, because I was getting overwhelmed with doing the exercise and then, you know, reading the book, and then or do I do the work, and I couldn't get much done. So I think I have to step back and just do the routine and get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be too much in the morning, or else you have to wake up like 4.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
If I don't, well, I'm not really at 4, but 4:45. If I don't do that, then my day's done. So.
Yeah, for me, when I'm not traveling, like at a meeting or conference that I am now, I try to get up about 4:20, and then I'll start going through the routine. I'll do some meditation, breathing. I'll read the Bible or a devotion, and then kind of set the stage. I started journaling about some of the ideas about the real estate investing business and other ideals that I have. Then I'll spend about 45 minutes just going through my regular work emails, my W2 emails, cleaning some of that stuff up because I work from home most of the time. So I have flexibility. Then when the kids get up, we do breakfast and I do, go into another routine, but just having that time in the morning helps to set the stage so that later in the day, in the afternoon, what I want to focus on, whether it's more personal development stuff, real estate, type stuff, I've taken care of all of the big rocks are taken care of. And now I can start working on some of the other important things.
James,
What time do you go to bed?
What time do I go to bed? I'm usually in bed by now. When I'm home.
I mean, because if you think about it, like I get home at 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then dinner, kids to bed, 8:30, 9, they are done. So then 9, 10, 11, 12, like
Yeah.
if you wake up at 5 a.m. or at 6, I can't stay up that late, but I'm the opposite. I would stay up until 2 a.m. and then wake up at 7:45. But I'm trying to change that.
What are you doing between the time the kids go to bed and 2 a.m.? I'm just curious.
Oh.
And if it's too personal, you can say, no, I'm not going there.
I pay bills. I read real estate or look for properties or, do some accounting, QuickBooks. There's always if you see my desk right now, it's a mess because there's so much stuff stuck up that I didn't get to.
Yeah.
And, right now tax season, so I have to get my stuff ready for the accountant.
Yeah. Good old tax season.
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing that I'm going to, give somebody to do once I can do it. Like just here.
Yes.
Take it.
I did that last year and it was the first time I've ever done that. And because enough people knew me personally and they knew what we were doing investment wise. And when I told them that, they were like, wait a minute, you don't have a CPA and you're doing all this investing and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I was like, it's easy enough for me to do. I'm like, dude, you got to outsource that. Best decision ever, best $500 I ever spent was to outsource.
But so what do you do? Like you just give them the statements and then they just.
Yeah. So there was a folder like this thick.
Mm-hmm.
I took it to them and said, here. And they digested it. And then they sent me this email and said, okay, we need clarification on like 5 different bullet points. And then weeks later, they were done. We went up to their office, signed some documents, and that was it.
Yeah, I need to do that. That's my goal for next year. I'm going to add it to my goals.
Yeah. So it was either
Jay, did they help you with tax strategies, or are they just actually processing the information that you give them?
So they just processed what we had given them with their, and it was the first time I've filed late too, or filed for an extension. This year, we're a little bit more synced on what we're trying to accomplish versus so their big thing is, hey, we want to protect you from an audit, and thank you for, I don't ever want to be audited, but that's they're looking at red flags, making sure, hey, is this filed correctly? And I took them my last year's return and the first page, they said, okay, who's been doing this for, they who's been doing this for you? And they're like, so this right here, this line item, that's a huge red flag for the IRS. This is a huge red flag. So they actually, from a strategy standpoint, we went back and refiled some of the previous things to try to correct them and said, okay, going forward, or at least we're going to make this statement saying he did this incorrectly. He was doing it on himself. I was using TurboTax. I was just clicking the button and trying to be done with it. I
understand.
But yeah, we're getting more into strategy and stuff like that this year. Last year was more of a, hey, let's catch up and let's get these things filed before the end of October kind of thing.
See, for us, this is really when we're ramping up activity from the multifamily real estate side. And it's not a whole lot of stuff, but one of my goals for this year is to engage a CPA, but not only for filing purposes, but to get some tax strategies, because just to help plan things out as we move forward in this side of our income grows.
Yeah. And I've got a guest call lined up for us here in a couple of weeks with Natalie. I'm going to butcher her last name. It starts with a K, Natalie K. And she is a CPA, also an investor. So she's going to be able to talk to us about some tax strategies as well. So we can at least take that input. I don't know. We were going to do it last week, but she's studying for one of her tests that she's got to get past this either this week or next week. So after that, we'll get to ask her questions and then take that feedback from her and take it to your CPA and see if they agree with it or if they have a different strategy. I'd love to see, because I believe CPAs have their own way of looking at things, and they don't all agree. So,
are you talking more like cost segregation type strategies?
Well, just overall strategies, like, does it make more sense to put this property in an LLC? Does it make more sense to have your vehicles leased, or does it make more sense to buy it and track mileage? Overall, trying to shrink your tax.
Because you have to look at all of that in the context of your W-2 income.
Correct.
As well. And so it's not just the real estate stuff, but it's trying to make sure, okay, now the real estate stuff and the W-2 things from you and your spouse, it's like, okay, now we need some strategies to figure out, are there some things that we can do that would be smarter for us to do? Stuff that we wouldn't necessarily have considered before going into real estate investing, but now we're here. Let's look and see what the strategies that are available.
Yeah. Does everybody know what your percentage tax rate was last year? Does everybody know what that is? What it was? For the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't, you can go back and look at your statement, and it should have it on there somewhere in your return is going to have, what your effective tax rate essentially was. There's a technical term for that, and I'm butchering the heck out of this because I haven't looked at it in a while. But, I think that's a very important number for you to look at to see. And, when we talk to Natalie, she can give us some guidance on what that should be to keep you from drawing a red flag from the IRS, but also ways to shrink that number, because you want it to be low, but you don't want it to be too low, right? Tiffany? Tiffany, you got your hand raised?
Okay, sorry, I was trying to unmute.
There you go.
Okay. When we met with our CPA, the CPA and the real estate attorney were the two important people that we knew we needed to have on our team. And it's kind of like you put your money, sometimes you get what you pay for. So we didn't really skimp on the real estate attorney and the CPA. And what our CPA did with us when we met with her, it's called proactive tax strategy. So, for example, one of the properties that we purchased, we're planning to do it. We bought it to be a flip. We have the contractor over doing the renovations, all those good things. But when she looked at our taxes and our tax bracket and all those different things, the capital tax gain, she broke it down to us. If you do it as a flip versus if you keep it as a buy and hold and then, sell it a couple of years down the road or whatever, the capital tax gain. But us not knowing, not really knowing anything about that, totally has our mindset like, oh wow, we really need to have a different strategy with this property, because I mean we'll lose like almost 50% of the profit from this if we do it as a flip. So it was very helpful to have. It's very helpful to have them as part of your team.
Now, Tiffany, do y'all look, so every property that you look to go and buy, whether it be for a buy and hold or a flip, do you take that property to your accountant and say, before you purchase it, and say, here's what we're thinking, what are your thoughts? Or
yeah, that's what we'll do moving forward.
Okay.
Just acquired all these so before we didn't even, I mean, this in 2018 is when we acquired all these properties, so we knew things we wanted to scale, but it just happened so quickly. We knew we needed to, consult with the professionals so that we're making the right decisions moving forward. So yeah, that property will likely be a buy and hold versus a flip.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. Yeah, that's huge part of it should be a huge part of your team, and I'm late at adding one to mine, so definitely agree with you there.
Well, just to clarify, I use a CPA for the taxes. I don't do them myself. I tried that once and I just couldn't, but I just have to get the stuff ready for him because I'm crazy. Like everything has to be like perfect.
And Terry had to drop off, but I know she's it seems like she's very meticulous about keeping her numbers straight too and everything. My thing about this is that every year I would do our taxes, I would buy myself a handle of liquor because it was a lot cheaper than paying a CPA. So that was my justification of stocking the liquor cabinet. But anyway, I'm happy not to do that anymore.
Yeah, and so I think for me, Jay, I'm like you. I've done my taxes, myself, do TurboTax and all the stuff. But I'm looking at where I want to grow, and I think in order for me to grow, I have to be willing to let something go.
Yeah.
And when I said I have to be willing to say, and not be afraid to say, I have to get to a point to say, okay, I need to engage a professional. I don't have to do it all myself. I can engage someone else that knows this stuff, that can give me advice, that can help set me up for success. And now I have to be willing to engage that person. Because I think in the past, I've always been one to, I got to do it myself. I can read up on it. I can go get a book. I can go get this. I don't need to pay anybody any extra money. And now I'm like, you know what? I've reached the point in life where I need to engage someone else in order for me to grow. So I got to let it go in order to grow.
Yeah. And we constantly talk about mindset. It was a mental aspect of having some stranger look at all of my information. That was something I had to get over, and I'm glad I did. Right. And you may be in the same spot too, but at the end of the day, it's just numbers. Right.
Yeah, but is it also like at some point in how many units you have, you would go out and get a CPA? Because I feel like I don't have that many to farm that out.
Well, it depends on whether you're looking to how you want to handle your total situation and your tax strategy. See, for me, it's just not about filing the taxes, but it's getting a better understanding of what different nuances in the laws are and looking at my total picture. And are there things that I can structure differently that will be advantageous to us from a tax perspective?
Yeah. And Melanie, I don't think there is a magic number that says once you get to this amount of units or this amount of revenue that you need to look at a CPA. I think it basically comes down to your comfort level and, do you want to do that or do you want to leave it up to the experts? I've always wanted to do mine until last year. And now that I've seen the light, I'm just like, man, I don't want to, it was a mind shift thing for me personally. And I think you've got what, 5 or 6 doors, you said?
7 doors.
7.
I was going to try to take a stab at it, and if it doesn't look like I like it, then I'll give it to a CPA.
Yeah. And, I would encourage you to talk to a couple of them. Just go ahead and talk to them and say, look, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? Because you want to find somebody who does have a real estate focus. And there's also, so like in Pensacola, there's some big firms that I was introduced through my lawyer. And I talked to them and they said, look, you're not big enough for us yet. And I first took offense. I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? But when he said, because our minimum fee, and he gave me a number, I was like, yeah, I'm not paying that. But he did say, look, here's a guy who focuses on so it was a CPA referring a CPA. He focuses on, your somebody of your depth, right? And once you get to the point where you outgrow him, then come talk to me. And I was like, well, thank you. First of all, I was offended. Now, thanks. So I would encourage you just to talk to a couple of them, whether you use them this year or not, just to go ahead and get that conversation started.
Yeah, and I would say, for me, it's not, again, it's more than just I need somebody to do a function. I need someone to join our team to help us move forward. So I had to change my mindset and shift from, I just need somebody to fill out this paperwork and do the taxes, to, you know what? I want somebody a part of the team that we're building that can help set things up for us to move forward in a good, successful way.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much I have for tonight. If anybody has anything else, speak now, or it'll be on Sunday.
I'm just happy to be able to join the call.
Man, me
I can't
too.
join the Sundays.
I am so glad that we've grown enough to have this call now once a week. So I'm glad you're here too, James. Appreciate it, man.
Jake, can we come either day? Can we come on or both, or do we have to stick to one?
No, you come. Both days are open, right? So the idea of the two calls is to make sure everybody gets a chance on the hot seat. So I did ask, for y'all, there's a couple of members that haven't responded yet. Just identify a day that you'll be on the hot seat, and that'll be kind of your home base. But no, the calls, as long as we have a call, regardless, y'all are welcome. Everybody's welcome to come to every one of them. And if you can't make it, they'll be in the replay section in the library. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, Annette, what you got?
Do you know when the call is going to be with the tax, with the accountant?
We talked about it being, when was it? I want to say the 27th, but she was supposed to give me some information. So that was on a Sunday.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay.
So, but she's supposed to give me some information, and I'm a little confused because we tossed around a couple of dates, and then she said, but I've got this, I'm studying for this test I have coming up for some continuing education on all the new laws. I was like, well, why don't we wait until you're after the test before, you talk to us? Cause I don't want to interfere with any of that. So, it might be in the next couple of weeks, and then it might be at the beginning of February, but it'll be relatively soon.
Okay. All right.
Good deal. Well, I think that's a wrap for the first W2 Capitalist Tuesday edition. All right, guys. I will talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.